All right, listeners, I get the distinct pleasure of chatting with one of my favorite people on earth. She is the founder of KC Media. She's the co-founder of Reframe Your Biz, but she's also our 2020 FITpreneur of the Year winner, Kristen Crowley. Kristen, how you doing today?
What's up, James? I'm so excited. I love that title. I'm still getting used to it.
I feel like that title needs to be in everything you do. Like if you ever write a book, I want it to be,
Okay,
from the 2020 FITpreneur of the Year, Kristen Crowley.
got it. Done. I'll put you, you'll be in my forward.
So I feel like okay, so there's an interesting thing. I feel like it's important that we actually say what that is because this is an award that we've put a lot of time, energy, and emotion into really now for 5 years, and the ideation behind the Fitpreneur of the Year award came from our Fitposium conference, where every year we wanted to honor one of our past attendees who had done the most, not only within the trajectory of their personal growth, their personal business, their personal brand, but had done the most to give back to the industry, to step into their role as a leader within the health, fitness, and wellness industry. And every year it is this really this kind of very difficult decision because so many of our attendees do so many amazing things. And I have to say, in all the years we've been doing this, when we came down to selecting our you for the winner, one, we had never had so many nominations for someone, so there was that, and two, it was just beyond unanimous because so many of the past recipients of the Fitpreneur Award also had nominated you. And so it's something that we take very seriously and in very high regard. And we're just so proud of you to just see what you've achieved over the last 12 plus months.
Yeah, it's been, and you know this because you've been along on the whole ride with me from like inception to now. And what's happened in the past, not even 2 years, has been exponential and complete life altering in my sense because it changed all of my trajectory where I was going to go. And that award to everybody, thank you. I mean, James likes to make me cry every year, and we've already went over this. So I still get emotional about it. I just got my award in the mail this past week and I took it out of the box and started crying again. So it means a lot to me. And it means a lot because I gave up a lot to do this. I mean, I sacrificed a lot to make the decision to help people in the wellness space versus television. And, for me, that was probably my biggest breakthrough last year.
Let's talk about that sacrifice because this happened. This was in 2019, going into 2020. You made a decision to do something that a lot of people would be afraid to do. You chose to walk away from a dream career that most others would aspire, like this is the ultimate. You
Yeah.
chose to walk away from that because you felt there was something more for you. I'd love to kind of go back in time, not that far, but it seems like 10 years ago by
I
this
know.
point. But let's go back in time to what was that thought process that made you realize that no, there's something else, I need to pursue this other avenue.
I think when you start to feel like you're not serving something, like there's no purpose to your day, it feels like that groundhog day. It's just monotonous and you're doing the same routine and you feel like you're just, going through the motions. And, my personality type, I love to create, I love to be around people. And, being in television, you're slightly isolated because you're in a studio, it's very quiet all day. You're, of course, being seen by hundreds of thousands of people, but you don't see anybody anymore. And your schedule is so difficult. So for anyone who I haven't met before, I have backgrounds in bartending and restaurants and visual merchandising and wound up in television through a bar customer. So that was like step one for me in my journey of becoming, an adult. I decided to go into it. And after 12 years of waking up at, 3 in the morning and going to bed at 10 at night and literally feeling like I was a walking zombie. I called it a mombie because you have to, you're walking around, you have no clue what's going on in life. And I knew there was more. And I had been put on a path to serve others using all of those weird, unique backgrounds put together. And, I've always been in fitness, I've always been involved in it, I've always loved it. So it just seemed like a natural path, but it really wasn't until I kind of found you and your tribe and then came to Fitposium that it like really honestly changed. I mean, that was the big pivot for me.
Yeah. What was the ideation behind the original transition? Because what you created back then is not what it is today. But what were some of those early thoughts or creative processes that got you to think, okay, this is how I can show up for others?
Well, it started, my health was failing. I've had two very high risk pregnancies and I went through a lot of health issues with that. And always being someone who, was in shape and going to the gym, it was really hard on me mentally more than I realized. And it started to take its toll, postpartum depression, anxiety for years and years and years. And fitness was really my only outlet. And I felt, that it was underserved to the rest of the community, that they didn't have this knowledge that I was attaining because I just like to learn. And the news business in general, for people out there, it's a hard business. It sucks your soul. I mean, it really is you have to love it and have a passion for it. And I still do, but my health was not keeping up with it. So I went through major health scares, as you guys know, the year before, and I left the business and I had 1 year left on my contract and I knew I had to do something. But that was the big year because that's when I was turning 40. And I know I had that conversation with you too about I don't want anything to really happen till I turn 40. I don't want to be published till I'm 40. It kind of felt like my year, and my health was failing so fast that I refused to let that be the rest of my life. Like, really, being in the media is fabulous. I love it. It gives you clout, it's notoriety, but it doesn't pay you anything. And it's the worst schedule on the planet. And as a mom, it was even harder. So I really just felt I needed to serve the community here. And, I love charity work. So I've always worked with lots of charities. So I decided I could create an event that would bring people together in fitness and wellness, because I do a lot of community events. And that's when WellFit Social started. And that came out of just before FITposium of last year. And that kind of snowballed into me wanting to help women learn how to do their own media and PR, because I know it. I've been in the newsroom for, over a decade, and I saw how people got ripped off on PR and couldn't afford it. And it was just a natural way for me to progress. And of course, that took a huge turn again at FITposium last year after that, when I had met my new business partner and we kind of reframed everything, which is the best word for this year without even knowing it. And it continued to evolve into helping more and more women. So I realized that was my calling. It wasn't to sit there just delivering information. It was to get out and actually change people's lives with that information. So it was a big difference for me.
It's interesting how many transitions there were throughout this relatively short trajectory, but it really so many intense turns where you made that choice to walk away from this career on television to, at the time, it was to cultivate these socials, the bringing people together, supporting charity, and then not only cultivating and crafting community, but teaching along the process. And what did we see this year was that, hey, if you want to congregate large groups of people together, well, that's not going to happen. But what you saw something within the thing you cultivated, which was, oh, there are people who are coming to these events who have this shared need, this
Mhm.
shared desire that I can provide a solution to, I can provide an answer to. What was it that allowed you to see? Because so many of us will just see the outside. Okay. So, to give an example of, let's just say I only had my FITposium conference, but I never saw that second layer of cultivating the mastermind, or I never saw that other layer of cultivating workshops or our summer series or our online membership. I only saw this one outside shell. What allowed you to kind of pull this open from your WellFit Social and see the need within, that you were able to then craft the Reframe business?
It literally the events themselves. It was the events that are inspiring, like that I did, or like, FITposium or other fitness conferences. Everybody goes and they have all these aspirations and dreams, and they're so pumped up and they want to do all the things and they want to do them tomorrow. And then they go home and they have no resources. They have nowhere to go. They have no clue what they're doing. They have no clue how to make it happen. And that's where I saw like this little opportunity. And, like, you have to fulfill a need. Like, if you're serving someone in business, it has to help them solve some type of problem. And we were finding that people were either getting published or getting media, or they were going to the conferences, but they were doing nothing in between to actually build their business. And, we've learned a lot over the past, couple of years, obviously, like building businesses and growing things and making it happen. But there was basic foundations that were being missed from point A to point B. So everybody was
Mhm.
jumping forward like we all do because we want instant gratification on everything in life. And if I get this magazine, I'm going to get millions of dollars and everybody's going to know me. And it's complete bullshit because it doesn't happen. And, it was this need of people just not knowing even basics on social media and just being afraid to ask the questions because again they don't want to be made fun of, they don't want people to think they don't know what they're doing. And we saw the opportunity to create it really as COVID hit. I mean, that was when that really came about, because media and PR I can teach all day. I mean, that's something I know I can help people with. But when this struck and we realized how many people were really putting on this facade of a business and not actually building one, it was scary. I mean, it was really scary, the basic skills some people didn't have. And we didn't want people to feel stupid asking questions. And we also knew in the times we were in, people couldn't afford to, go out and go back to school or go take these huge courses. So we just created an opportunity for people to learn things in a really controlled, systematic way. And it seems, it helped even myself because we all skip steps. All of us in business skip the steps, the ones that aren't sexy. We just don't want to do them. And it kind of put everybody back in check. And we obviously, the Reframe started as a photo shoot retreat idea. And with COVID, that got canceled for this year. So we had to make a hard pivot. Otherwise, we didn't have business. Like we literally did not have a business. Like we're not going to take photos on Zoom all day. that would not make us any money. You would be broke as a photographer too. So, it was our pivot to find that little gap in the industry where people really needed support. And that was more of really just building a brand and a business, the basics.
There's so many facets that you shined a light upon that really edified what some problems are within our industry. Like, for example, there are so many coaches or conferences that just lean too much into inspiration or motivation without anything tactile. And that's when you have speakers on stage, and nothing irritates me more, especially as someone who hosts conferences, that if I'm sitting there and I'm watching the speaker up on stage, and this speaker, even though they're 10 feet away, they might as well be across the world from me because they don't remember what it was like to be sitting in this
Yeah.
seat right here. And the stuff they're talking about, they're like, oh, we'll just do this, this, this. And if you don't know how to do it, just hire 20 people. And it's just like, yeah, but I'm a solopreneur and I'm bootstrapping this. And I don't know what the F you're talking about right now. Like, you are making this way too complicated. You don't remember what it was like to be early on. Okay. So that right there is an issue. Second issue is the facade, as you said, that so many are putting on, that when times are good, you kind of get away with a little bit because maybe people aren't paying that close of attention, or, maybe not doing everything as well as you should be doing. You can get away with a little bit when times are really good. And then all of a sudden, when things start to come down and things start to crash, that's what shows, okay, what is the real stuff, the stuff that actually has substance, who's actually teaching value, who's actually here to support people, who's just here to like kind of throw motivation out and then just try to take revenue after. And then from someone who's trying to start a business, who is willing to say, you know what, I'm going to be vulnerable and just admit, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help right now. And what are these steps that I need to take? Because the support they had before was not getting them there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sad. I mean, it really pained me to see what was happening to some people being taken advantage of, like even creating little social media icons and getting charged hundreds of dollars for 5 minutes worth of work. Those kind of things. But that comes from, again, being all jazzed up and excited. And someone says you need all this stuff. So you're like, okay, I'm just going to go to the person and then you don't know anything. So therefore you're making yourself vulnerable and a victim because you have no knowledge on your business and you're just hiring out people without knowing what you're hiring for. And it's sad that I say it's turning your job into a business because people in the fitness industry, and we've talked about this, when I was a news anchor, you walk into a room and someone says, what do you do for a living? And I say, oh, I'm a news anchor. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Oh, cool. You walk into a room and you're like, I'm a personal trainer. Oh, that's nice. Like they get a different response. So they feel they don't feel validated. They don't feel like they're worthy of having a business, even though they are a brand and a business. Every personal trainer, every nutritionist, everyone in wellness is a brand and a business. And it made me mad that it was looked down in that way, like where people didn't take it as seriously. And I can tell everyone out there in fitness and wellness right now, you probably make more money than anybody on TV in your local area. So don't think that you're not important or valid because of your titles, and the labels are just, they're complete bullshit. I mean, we as society look at them, but when it comes to your own personal happiness and wealth, it has nothing to do with it. I'm the happiest I've ever been, and I'm making the least money right now. So I can't, I can attest to that following the passion and that side of it really, you have to take it seriously though. You are important, and it is a business, and you do need to build it like a business in order to at least have longevity and not
Mhm.
be, a trader for 2 years while you feel great about it and then you quit and you have no idea what you're going to do. I mean, there's just too much opportunity right now with everything online. There is far too much opportunity to build a evergreen type business online that you don't have to sit and babysit every day. So like I said, it's a blessing.
There's a lesson that you've gotten. It's something that like we've kind of learned through this process that I feel it's important to distill down upon for listeners. As a business owner, you can sell one of two things. Now, what we've talked about is the problems and the frustrations we've seen as coaches, we've seen as educators, we've seen as leaders to others, right? Gaps in the marketplace created by people selling, I'll put in quotes, the wrong stuff. But here's the difference, I think, is you can sell and only provide what people want versus what people need. Now, the difference between the two, let's look at wants and needs. No one purchases what they need.
Mhm.
Okay. They don't know what they need, right? They know what they want. A good business will not only sell what people want, but it will guide them to what they actually need.
Mhm.
That's the difference. It's yes, I will give you everything you want, but this is the base. This is the foundation. This is the support that will help you achieve what you actually need. And that right there is what was missing so much in our marketplace, especially with coaches and online programs and things like that. And it's something that you do so well, which is listen, we're going to hit upon what you want. We're going to teach you like the sexiest stuff, the stuff that everyone's asking the questions about. But at the same time, we're going to show you why it matters. We're going to show you how to apply it. We're going to show you what to take and input into this. So, like, I'll use your example of like and I assume it's like a social media coach selling social media icons, right? Stuff
Yeah.
that you could design absolutely for free in under 5 minutes, right? What are they doing? They're driving in on a want. Okay, people want this. I'll just create it and produce. But here's the thing: they're not going to retain these clients for very long because the clients will eventually realize this wasn't what I needed, and then at some point they're going to search for what they need instead.
Yeah. And they'll become educated at some point and realize it was a ripoff. And then they're just going to be pissed off at you.
Mhm.
So it's how you make people feel. I mean, they remember how you make them feel. And, that's my goal in everything I've ever done is everybody has to feel important around me. And that is a life lesson from my parents. Like you treat everyone the same, no matter what. And everybody needs to feel important in some way, shape, or form. We all just want to be seen and we all want to be respected and we all want to be, in the circle, and it's just hard finding the right spots for that. And I know, I got lucky. I got, you guys, and I got our GAM group, and I had an amazing tribe of people to support me. But it is hard to, even more so now with COVID and everybody going online, to kind of go through that minefield of like what's right for me and what's not. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's really hard to find. So I mean, I've found that, really asking people who've been there for their honest advice on one specific question, not just blanket going in and saying, how did you do everything, but how did you find the right person for this? Most people who are entrepreneurs, and I know you and I are saying, we'll share that information openly. If you need advice on someone or you need a recommendation for someone you can trust, go to the people that you trust yourself and ask them who they used, and stop, just shiny object clicking on we call it the hot oily guy in the pool pictures on, Facebook. They give you these ads of these, people, you're like, ooh, they must make a lot of money, I'm just going to go with them. And you end up getting screwed. So that's the scary part of online right now, because everybody is online, so it is inundated with the good and the bad. But sifting through it's difficult. I mean, it's
I
definitely been
think
hard.
I think you and I are served very different content on social
Well,
media. If you're seeing hot guys rubbed like lathered in oil lounging out by the pool, I don't know if I've ever been served that ad.
you have the blondes in bikinis, so we're even.
I'm sure. But this brings up an important point that I'd love to drill down upon, which is at some point this is going to get ruined for us. At some point, people selling the wrong shit or people promoting the bad stuff or not actually serving people and just thinking if they put up the right ad and throw enough money behind it and they got their funnel to support it, that they'll make enough money till they figure out their next scheme, right? Their next
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
What do we do? Individuals like you, individuals like me, what do we do? Individuals who listen to this show, and I guarantee the people who listen to the show are the people who want to do this for the right reasons. What do we do to stand out from all those who are seeking to just take the money now and then not worry about the industry later because they'll just figure out something else later?
Yeah, I think you have to be unafraid of over serving. I'm a big over server. I will over communicate. So I think, over serving people right now, making them feel safe, making them feel seen in this environment that is so saturated is going to pull you apart from the rest of the people in your crowd. And also knowing how to present yourself online. I mean, that's a thing most people just miss the boat on completely is they have a mishmash of things that represent their brand, and their brand itself is say you're, a personal trainer, but you may only work with a very specific clientele, yet, you're posting photos of you, competing, that may not be your clientele right now. So you have to diversify your brand to a point where your image, your message, everything is the same. And that means on all platforms, on your website, so that no matter anybody sees your name anywhere, they know what you're about. And I think that makes people stand out in the authenticity of what they do, because they're actually practicing what they preach. They're the same consistently online. They're not, again, shiny object, like throwing out a different program every week. They find what works, they stick to it. And it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it doesn't for anybody. I don't care what you do, who you know, it is not going to happen overnight. And that's the part that I don't like, is when people oversell that factor. So if someone's telling you they can make you six figures in 30 days, run the opposite direction as fast as you can, because it's not going to happen. And you have to spend time doing the unsexy stuff. You have to build a website with proper SEO. You have to know your keywords. You have to, know your brand message, who you're talking to. There's all the things that we just throw words out there and we're like, yeah, it's going to work. I'm fabulous. I know how to make people lose weight. And it doesn't work. And it's because you just haven't went through the steps. And the unsexy part of the business is doing all the administrative and getting behind the scenes and doing it. And none of us want to. I don't either, but you have to do it. And learning. I love to learn. So I'm on different platforms every day, probably learning something in design or Canva or something fun, just because I enjoy doing it. And if that's not for you, again, find a virtual assistant that's affordable, or ask around. Someone may be willing to trade with you. Like I love, in our business, there are a lot of people who are good at certain things and they're willing to help you, but you can't just sit there and expect them to come to you either.
Mm-hmm. I think so much of this is taking that beat or taking that pause to do that foundational thought process of what is it that I'm trying to do? Who am I trying to do this for? What is the message of my brand? Who am I trying to communicate this to? It's amazing how some people will be what they consider to be in the flow of their business, but they haven't even done that foundational work of trying to even understand who they're trying to reach, why they're trying to reach them, or what impact they're trying to have in their lives. And this work is critical because if you're not setting a destination for where you want to go, you're not going to get where you want to go. And that's a real problem for so many people within this industry. And you're right. It's like everything, all these things are figure outable, whether you figure it out yourself like people like you and I were savvy, we can jump on YouTube and watch a bunch of tutorial videos or download enough podcasts to navigate it out. Or, we're not afraid to invest in someone to just handle the stuff that does not move the needle for us, but needs to get done anyway. And it's not like you have to do all things at all times. Okay. And I feel like that's so important. It's like find the things that actually move the needle forward within your business and focus on those, hone in on those. Like there are certain things I think we own an account on every major platform. I'm just using social media as an example, but we use one. I mean, really just one. And we have other means to connect, be it an SMS list, an email list, podcast, blog, etc. So we have all that, but really we just hone in on the one because it's what works for us until it doesn't, and then we'll hone in on another. So it's like kind of realize who you are, who you're trying to reach, what you're trying to do, and then how you're going to connect with them, how you're going to get in front of their field of vision or field of awareness.
And one thing, and this is the thing in the fitness wellness space, people need to realize, again, it is a business and you need to plan for the long term. You wouldn't open, a construction company without having a 1 year, a 5 year, and a 10-year plan, right? I mean, you're not going to open another business without an actual business plan. So why are you trying to do yours for the short term? Why are you shorting yourself by doing, I'm going to do this for 6 months? No, you need to plan out 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years. Otherwise, you're selling yourself short, because if you don't have those out there, you're literally, pulling shit together, like that spray and pray thing. You don't know what's going to happen. Real businesses, they create a plan. They know where they're going to be year to year. They have projections on what they want to make. You should be treating it the same way, even if you're just a trainer for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just business 101 that you need to start building on. And I can tell you, when you have a plan in place like that, and we have another business outside of this that is construction, that business hit those goals far before those goals were set, because that plan was in place. And that turned into, a great business, and has continued on that trajectory. But that's because there was a plan in place and there was people who were hired strategically to fill positions to make it happen. So it definitely, the fitness world needs to start acting like its own business. And that is my biggest thing I've learned this year from seeing the gaps that I've seen in the events and people not getting things done. Is I really think they just need to really own that pride that this is the most needed this industry has ever been. I mean, as far as mental health, physical health, I mean, everybody's stuck at home. Like it's killing. Like, I want to see you guys. I want to see everybody, and we can't. And it's painful. So, it's up to all of us to really reach out and make people's lives better. And once you start treating it that way, just start being unafraid. Like, you have to take risks and you have to put yourself out there. And I've again have seen it pay off so much for myself this year by taking risks that I didn't know I was going to even be taking, but then setting a plan and saying, okay, this is what we are going to do. And even though COVID has hit us, okay, we'll pivot for now, but we still have this long-term plan and we are going to attack it next year. So you have to have those things in place. I think it's crucial for everybody right now.
The only reason someone would not create a plan, and I'm going through like all the excuses in my mind. Well, I don't have enough time. Well, guess what? This supersedes time constraints. I've never done one before. Google, right? I wouldn't know where to begin. Well, once again, Google. Like I'm going through the litany of excuses of why someone would not have set a plan for themselves, even a 1 year plan. Okay, where do you want to go by the end of 12 months? Okay, this is something that I do aggressively every single year, where I set a yearly target, and I actually will I set an overall theme, and I break that theme into 14 categories, set a specific goal for all 14 categories. So like my photo business is one of 14 categories. From there, I set goals under each category with deadlines for each goal. So by the end of the time that I'm done with this document, I have 100 to 140 individual goals that I hit across 14 categories within my life, within my business, within my health, within relationships, all the above. And then I make it a living document, which means I check back in on it every quarter to do a quarterly assessment to see what needs to be refined in my approach so that I get back on track. Am I on track or off track? And the numbers don't lie. Okay. So, with that being said, getting back to the only reason someone would not create a plan, some plan of action for what they want to achieve, is they still want to hold on to some form of deniability.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, if this fitness thing doesn't work, you said it yourself. It's when people say they work in the fitness industry, it doesn't have the allure that, I'm on TV, or it doesn't have it's like, oh, okay. And if we ourselves are seeing what we're doing as a side hustle, if we ourselves are seeing what we're doing as a hobby and we're treating it as such, we are robbing ourselves of the potential we can achieve when we move from having deniability to having accountability. If you want to have accountability in your business, you're going to do that damn plan. You want to have accountability in what you're trying to achieve, you're going to do the plan. You're going to make it a living document. You're not just going to write out some notes, put it in a desk drawer, and then look at it a year later. You're going to actually use this as a guiding post for how you're going to run your business and as the barometer on how you're making decisions. Does this decision move me closer to this goal, or does this decision move me away from this goal?
Yeah, this isn't your, elementary school diary. You're not just like putting your hopes and dreams in a journal, yeah, and shoving it under your mattress, so nobody will find it. Like this is you creating your future and your actual like worth. I mean, this is your livelihood. And people that are not taking it seriously, I know I went and I mean, to be completely transparent, when I was leaving television, I had really didn't have a solid plan. I just knew I had to change for something to change. So I had to take a leap of faith in that way. So some people, if you are afraid of the unknown or you just don't want to be without a solid, job or a schedule, it's scary. It is really scary. I've had a schedule my entire life. You go to school at certain times, you go to work at certain times. I always had somewhere to be and a reason to be there. So when I went out on my own and I got my whole day free, I'm like, I'm gonna have margaritas and just relax and I can get shit done later. I'm fine. No, I mean, and I still do that. So I'm not gonna lie. But if it's 12 o'clock and I have nothing to do, but I was afraid. I mean, I honestly was afraid. And I mean, James was there for one of my, like, I guess I'll call it a breakthrough moment where I just could not stop crying because I was so afraid to go home on my own and not have someone there to support me. And I was truly realized that in my industry and television, I had the best news family on the planet, but they still weren't in the space, the fitness space, or understood what I wanted to do. So it was really hard for me to come from a group of women who supported you so much to going back home and not having anyone there to support your dream and still having to make that decision to quit my job and just say, I'm done. I have no clue what's exactly going to happen, but I'm going to do these events. I'm going to do this. I'm going to coach people on media. And you know what? I'm going to make it happen. And sometimes you have to do that to get yourself to really let go of what's holding you back. I mean, you have to take not even a leap, like you have to jump. Like it's not really a leap. It's like falling forward. You have to fall off the cliff in order to learn what to do next, because some of us we're lazy. I mean, as a country in whole, we're lazy. Like we want stuff handed to us. We don't want to do the work. And it's sink or swim. Sometimes you have to be thrown in to see how well you're going to do. And I can tell you, most people who've done that have all succeeded. I mean, I have never really seen anybody fail by doing that. So they fail harder by not taking the risk, and then they're miserable for 10 more years.
There it is. It's the path of least resistance yields the least results. And you're right. When we talk about, taking these risks or taking these leaps, it's because it's not that we did it without fear, because I'm sure you can test this. Like you're terrified the whole time. But it's even when you fail, the failure is so temporary that you've pivoted and you figured out the way to take the leap again for success. And I think that's a really important thing. I just literally pulled this off my desk. So this is one of the pages in my annual plan sheets. So I have it all broken down categories. So those are all the goals. I take that, and then every quarter I then put that into my action items on every specific week of the year for what I need to get done in every specific week of the year. So then when I set my weekly calendar, there's no question about what I need to do because it came from my annual plan, which went into my quarterly plans, which went into my weekly action items. This is how you make a plan actually work for yourself
And James is a
versus
master at it, you guys. He is like literally the organization that you have with that stuff still blows my mind because I am not that. I'm more of a creative organizer, so I'm not a admin style organizer. So I am, in my head, I like to design things or have things visual that I can see all the time. So for me, it's a little bit different when I plan things out. And I envy that part of your organizational skills big time because mine are much more in that like open realm, but I keep a lot of it in my head. I don't put a lot out on paper. So mine's an internal organizer that I'm constantly, which is probably what keeps me up at night because I'm always thinking of what I'm going to be doing. And I'm constantly in creative mode. So, it depends how your brain thinks. Like we all have different ways that we like to organize or express things. So I think that's a funny point because yours is so precise and written, and mine is kind of like, again, like I'm having a party in here, like everything is all over, but I know what's going on, and that's really all that matters. So
and that's the important thing is you find the system that works for you. And the reason
yeah,
that system works for me is because I spent 7 years in corporate marketing where I just had to create these action items. So I've pulled that into my business there forward. But prior to that, yeah, I was more always in that creative mode, but I've had to kind of blend left brain and right brain together a bit.
yeah.
I'm curious for you, like I thought 2019, this was at the end of 2019, when I look at the trajectory of, the history and how I've known you in that time frame, I thought 2019 was really the most transformative year for you. And then January 1st hit, and then we went into 2020. And now, we're almost done with 2020. We're looking back. I'm like, wow, 2020 may have been even more transformative for you than 2019 was. What do you feel you've learned the most about yourself in this process?
Ooh, that's a good one. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot more of being patient with myself and a lot more of accepting imperfections because extreme perfectionist. Most of us are, you don't want to do anything unless it's perfect. And I like, what do we call it? The procrastinating perfectionism because you're always putting things off because it's not perfect. So I was really bad at that. I know I can admit that now. I also would never ask for help. And you know this, I'm the last person to ever really ask for help on things. I help everyone else constantly. It's my love language is, acts of service for people. So I am constantly helping, but I learned this year that I needed other people to be, around me and to hold me up because again, we've all had a lot of weaknesses this year. And I think this year exposed a lot in the sense that it is the first time ever in our history as a country, as a culture, that we all had the same pain point at the same time. So we all faced the same struggle at the exact same moment in history. And maybe that was not finding toilet paper for you, but for the rest of us, it was being isolated. But it was definitely pivotal for me to see how much I actually needed other people. And the other was, again, letting go of trying to put on the facade all the time because I've been in a business of facades my entire life. I had to design windows and store design. That was all about the looks and how things were, put together. Then I had the restaurant business, bar business. You're constantly on, you're constantly selling, you're constantly like this facade of keeping it all together. And then I moved into television, which is the ultimate smoke and mirrors of looking like you have your life together and you're exhausted and you can barely remember your kids' names because you're, not sleeping. And so I've went through all those things where you always had to put on a presence to be in front of people. Like you had to watch what you said, you had to be very politically correct. And now I have this freedom of not having to answer to anybody. And it's given me this kind of like, it's taken this weight off of like trying to keep up that all the time. So that's been the biggest change for me overall was definitely learning to just be myself and that people would love me no matter what. You didn't have to be this perfect, nonstop machine all the time. So that was a big change for me. And then just really learning what I was capable of. Because again, we're all afraid to take the risks in business. We're all afraid to take that next step. And I'm kind of one of those, like I said, sink or swim. I have to throw myself into something or I'll keep putting it off. So I learned this year that if I get thrown into yet another thing, I guess my technically fourth career after 40, I will swim, because I love the challenge of it, and it just kind of invigorated me again to do more for other people and not just for myself. So this year was a lot of change. It's definitely a lot. And getting used to actually sleeping somewhat like a normal human again was nice too.
Hmm. I would add to that, like, I feel like this year has just trained us and exercised us so much to just handle what comes next. And I feel like that's an important gift that we've been given. What advice would you give? Because so many of the listeners, they're all entrepreneurs and they're trying to gain that momentum. And some of them might be at that stance where they're unsure if they even have the right to take that next step, or they're unclear if this is the right step or if that's the right step, and they kind of get stuck in that paralysis mode of, I'm not sure if this is the right thing or if this is the right step. What advice would you give to try to encourage them to take that leap or to get into motion?
Okay, I'm going to use my mom's quote. This quote was hanging over my mom's door in our horse farm. Grew up on a horse farm. It hung over our door every day for my entire childhood, and it was, "You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do." So your reputation is built on what you actually take action on and do. And that is all that matters. And that is all that matters every day. It doesn't matter if it's a small step, if it's a big step, if it's just staying in place and managing what you're starting. Everybody out there has the ability to do more. It's just whether or not you want to get off your ass and do it. I mean, that's my most blunt thing I can say is the difference is between making it and not making it is the people who actually take the step to do it. And I have taken the steps. I have tried to push myself as hard as I can out of my comfort zones. And every single one of those has paid off for me in ways that I can't even explain. I mean, whether it's divine intervention or whatever is going on, every single time I was scared to death to do something, but I felt that I wanted to do it, like in my soul, like this is something I'm meant to do. When I've done it, it's worked out. Like nothing, the world didn't blow up. I didn't lose everything. It is the biggest payoff you will ever get in your life. So you have to stop being afraid of doing it. And if you're want something bad enough, you're going to do it. If you don't, then you don't want it bad enough. And I'm sorry, you're just being lazy.
I need you to take that mic off the stand and just drop it.
Off the mic.
That was epic. Kristen, where can listeners go to connect with you, learn more about you, and all the amazing things you're doing with Reframe?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I'm an open book. So if you have questions, you're more than welcome to reach out. It's at Kristen Crowley TV on Instagram, Facebook, kristencrowley.com. And then, of course, our venture for the women in fitness and wellness is Reframe Your Biz with a Z. So at Reframe Your Biz on Instagram and reframeyourbiz.com. So you can check out all the fun stuff we're working on for 2021, some of it with this guy right here. So we are super excited. And I have never probably been more excited in my life for what's to come than I have been since I've hit my 40s.
Kristen, I am so eternally grateful for you and just proud of you, not just for the work that you've done within your own business, but because you're the person who goes and you are now leading and helping others. And there's nothing that I could be more proud of. You are absolutely doing such amazing work, and I cannot wait to see what you achieve next.
Well, thank you. And you've been there the whole way. So I thank you for everything you guys have done for me. And I am very honored to be the FITpreneur of the Year for this 2020. We will represent all the way into next year. So we're taking a vacation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yay.